Hello, it's Audrey. It's my last day at the Writers Retreat in Costa Rica. And we had a really wonderful workshop this morning, another creative group of writers here. And a question came up about hypnosis. One of the writers at the screenwriting retreat asked about, is it safe if you've had trauma in your life to do hypnosis? She had heard that it could open the Pandora's box, so to speak, and all sorts of terrible things could come out. And that was actually a really good question. What I say, that she was totally correct. You do want to be sure that the person you go to is not just a hypnotist, but a therapist who also knows hypnosis, and even more importantly, someone who works with trauma, because you do not want to be re-traumatized. You do not want to be put back in the event if it's been a very traumatic event. So how do you know if somebody knows what they're doing? Well, the first session with your therapist or hypnotherapist, you'll sit down and you'll talk about fears that you might have. You'll talk about traumas that you remember that maybe you're afraid to bring up. And you set the goals. Most importantly, if you don't have goals, how do you know where you're going? So let's say this person, and I'll be working with her later today, but let's say that her trauma was abuse. And now, that's one piece of the puzzle. But what is the problem that is today that is still going on because of that abuse? So it's really more important that we know what she wants. So in other words, yes, we can eliminate the feelings about the abuse, but how is that really getting in the way is even more important. So let's say that what happened in her childhood is causing her to be afraid to be out there and show herself. And as a writer, you need to read your scripts, you need to pitch your scripts, you need to be able to take criticism. So if that early childhood stuff is causing the person to not be able, and I think one of the things she said, she has trouble finishing things. Well, that needs to be taken care of, and it can be. But in order to go back to the memory that causes the problem, you want to be sure that you are trained in how to use your own mind, that if at any moment something comes up, that you could be above things. You don't need to be in the event. We can work, by being above. There's a technique called timeline, and that's a really useful hypnotic technique that and especially for writers, it's such a creative thing. They do it all the time. Actually, everyone kind of goes out into the future in their mind and either creates things they want to see or things they don't want to see. So if you're going to work with trauma, you want to know how to purposefully float way up high above your timeline so that you have a different perspective from looking down at your timeline below. You see things differently. Even the fact that today you have a lot more information than you did when you were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, even that, when you're going back, you're bringing all that information with you. So we had one person in the group say that when she was 3 years old, there was a traumatic event, and she actually stood up to a bigger person who ended up punching her in the face, right in the face. And she said, well, she didn't want to change that because she learned something that she could stand up for herself, even though there were repercussions. So my question to her was, if it were possible, and the you that you are today was able somehow to go back to that little girl of 3 years old and protect her, would that be an okay thing? She said, absolutely, that would be more ideal. The child would have felt protected. So when she started, this is another person in the seminar this morning, when she started, she thought she had to hold on to that memory because she learned that she could stand up for herself. But at the same time, by having the older her, with all the knowledge she has today, stand up, she's still feeling powerful, and she's feeling not only powerful, but she's feeling like she could protect that little girl, which then gives the child the ability to be a child and not to feel like she has to stand up to an adult who's going to punch her in the face. So let me, again, just wrap this up. When you're working with trauma, it is perfectly safe to do as long as, number one, the person you're working with knows how to work with trauma, is well trained as a hypnotist, hopefully using Ericksonian type of techniques, and also knows how to guide you in using your mind so you can be above, looking down, and helping the young child who is you fix things by just being there, giving her information or advice. If somebody tries to have you go into a memory without teaching you how to protect yourself by being above it, then it is okay for you to open your eyes and say, you know what, I don't want to be re-traumatized. If you have any questions, feel free to call me or email me at askdraudray@gmail.com. Again, it's my last day in Costa Rica, and hopefully maybe you'd like to join us next year. If you're a screenwriter or any kind of writer, it's writeyourscreenplay.com. We'll give you all that kind of information. If you want more information about anxiety, just go to the anxietycontrolcenter.com and feel free to contact me. Okay, signing off from Costa Rica, and I'll be back in New York City tomorrow and in my Jersey office the next week. Okay, bye now.